All right, ladies. So deep dive on bridges. You kind of need to know a little bit of the theory so you understand how to do them correctly and why. The biggest mistake I see is that people overfocus on exercises. What is an exercise for me when I have this or that? It's like if you have a pelvic floor dysfunction, it's not so much about the exercise, about the how of that exercise, how to do that and why. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about what the bridges do, what they strengthen, why you want to do it or why not, who should be doing them or who should not be doing them, what is the correct form, and what are the common mistakes, and how to troubleshoot for them. Okay, so bridges do glute strengthening. Okay, they strengthen the glute. So what is the glute? You have to understand there's several glute muscles. So it's you have to understand that there's a glute max and the glute medius and minimus, and there's glute what we call deep hip rotators or smaller gluteal muscles, and these should not be always working when you do bridges. So let me show you on my pants. Okay, so you want to strengthen the glute max. The glute max is this big fat white muscle. It's a chunky muscle. Okay, it's a big muscle, this one, right? And then you have a glute medius, which is more on the side. Glute minimus is a little bit under. And then you have deep hip rotators. They kind of go like this, okay? Those are the piriformis, the obturators, the gemellus, and so on, okay? You do not want these muscles to overwork, or in other words, before you do bridges, you really have to make sure that the glute max is working and it's activated. So when is it not activated? So people who are glute clenchers, you see someone flat butt, standing like with flat butt, hanging into their hips. Okay, someone hanging into their hips, someone gripping with their glutes. So there will be someone here, like really tight here. And you will see on the creases of the pants of this person, they will have creases over here at the bottom. That's a glute gripper person or glute clencher person, okay? Someone who has like a heart-shaped butt, heart-shaped. So there's a point down here. This person will probably have an inhibited glute max because the deep hip rotators, like the piriformis, they will be tight. They will be over tight, okay? And so when you do bridges, you will be making yourself worse because bridges strengthen the glute max by shortening it, contracting it, and the contraction is shortening. This is it. I'm shortening it, okay? That's just one way of strengthening glutes. The other way is lengthening, which is squats, deadlifts, hip hinges, okay? I am lengthening this muscle, lengthening the glutes as I squat down or hip hinge, okay? Now, why is this so important for prolapse, overactive bladder, leaking, hypertonic pelvic floor? You have to understand a little bit of the anatomy, and if you have a pelvic floor dysfunction, I always look at how you squat and how you move, how you do these movements, the deadlift, because that's gonna tell me the state of your pelvic floor, okay? So now you have a certain, this is your pelvis, and your pelvis is, the pelvic bones are in neutral. Now look at the tape. The tape is your pelvic floor and is in a certain state of tension. This is good tension, and there's good space here. You want space here for your pelvic floor so it can contract as needed and relax as needed. This is healthy space here. But with what we see with women with pelvic floor dysfunction, so prolapse, leaking, overactive bladder, hypertonic pelvic floor, is that their space is smaller. It's like this, okay? And there's several reasons for that. Pregnancy causes that, and the connection to the glutes is that when your deep hip rotators, the piriformis is tight, it's gonna smush this. It's gonna smush, okay? So I'm gonna smush this space. The pelvic, there's less space, right? And this compresses everything. This compresses the organs that sit here, the bladder. So prolapse symptoms are much worse because everything's smushed here together. That's kind of like the short explanation. And you will see, this is the pelvic floor. In this state, the pelvic floor is a state of slack. It's loose, okay, here, as opposed to here. So now the pelvic floor, in this position, cannot really work properly, okay, because it's loose, and so it will tighten up, all right? So that's one reason why we really have to make sure that the glute max is working and you're doing it correctly, because it will impact your pelvic floor, okay? So now just look at the glute max, where it is. It's kind of like higher up, right? So when you do bridges, you want to feel your glutes here higher up, like you want to feel the soreness higher up. So when you do bridges and the next day you're tight here at the bottom, that's how you know you weren't really working the glute max, okay? And this makes a pelvic floor dysfunction worse. So that's why the risk is high if you're a beginner, okay? That's why I do not incorporate bridges as a first stage. First, we work on lengthening, so doing squats and deadlifts. And when you can activate your glute max, only then I'll do bridges, okay? So bridges is not, I don't think it's for any beginners. You really have to make sure you can activate your glute max. And there can be other reasons why your glute max is inhibited. It could be that you are more quad dominant or hamstrings dominant. Okay, so when you do glute work, your hamstrings take over first or your quads take over, okay? So you kind of need to know a little behind. So now, when to do them. Okay, so when to do them is you're not a beginner. You can do the lengthening, the glute lengthening, and you just want to enhance and make your glute max stronger. Fine. You can totally do bridges. The nice thing about bridges is that your pelvis is high up, and so it allows for, the organs go down. Your head is lower than your pelvis. So that's the nice thing about bridges. But do not confuse the bridges from yoga with bridges for pelvic floor dysfunction. They're different. Bridges from yoga, they want you to open, okay? Open the hips. So it's more like opening rather than glute strengthening, okay? You don't want to go too high. If you go too high, you push off with your low back, okay? So yoga cues bridges a little differently, and I'm a certified yoga teacher, okay? You can sometimes hear even in yoga, they say like, push your hips up, but make your glutes loose, okay? So there's just different reasons. Like, that's why I say you want to understand why you want to be doing bridges, okay? So proper form. Proper form is, you want to have your feet rather closer to your butt rather than further away, okay? So you want to touch your heels with your fingers to have a proper position. If your feet are too far, you're gonna be pushing yourself off. That's quads. That's not glutes. Okay? Anterior chain, posterior chain. If my anterior chain is working, my posterior chain is not working. Okay? So this is your starting position, and you want to have your pelvis neutral, and then keep the stack of your pelvic bones with the ribs. Okay, so this is the number one mistake. You see people going like this, like I can do millions of these, millions of reps like this. Is this doing anything for me? Nuh-uh. It's doing nothing. Nothing, no strength. I'm just wasting time here, okay? So, to make sure that you keep your pelvis, your rib cage stacked over your pelvis, touch your ribs. This is where my ribs end. I'm gonna touch my pelvis, and as I go up, okay, go up, I go up, I go up, I'm keeping the stack, okay? And then I go down, I go down, I go down, I go down, still keeping the stack, okay? So for that, I need to go rib cage first, kind of like vertebra by vertebra type of descent, as opposed to this, okay? So if you have diastasis and you're not zipping the ribs in, or you have a hernia, possibly, this is gonna make it worse because you're kind of open here and it compromises your back. You should be using your back more rather than the glutes, okay? So think of every exercise that you ever do in your life, think of, how am I doing it? I'm sure you can do bridges, I'm sure you can do squats and whatever you want in your life. The question is, with what muscles? What muscles are you using to get into that position? Are you using in bridges low back to push yourself, okay? Or are you really using the glutes? And then if you're not using the back, are you using the glute max, or are you using the deep glute rotators, the piriformis, the obturators, and so on? Okay, so that's why it's imperative that the form, like how you do this, you can't put it on a handout, on a one picture, it's starting position, and one picture ending position. That's just not enough, because it also depends who you are. Do you have a posterior pelvic tilt, tucked bum? I say if you have a posterior tilt, don't do bridges. They just gonna make you worse, because they are just going to, you're just going to do what you already do. You're gonna grip with the piriformis. They're not gonna do you any good, okay? And if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, okay, you have to then make sure that you don't do them with the tilt, or as you push up. Most people, that is the very common mistakes, people slip into an anterior tilt. So you start neutral, or maybe you start posterior, which is the tucked bum, and then as you push yourself up, instead of using your glutes, you use your back, and this is an anterior tilt, okay? I'm using my back to push myself off, okay? So then the other thing why you shouldn't do them is when you have tight hip flexors, okay? So you know that your psoas is tight, your TFL is tight, you feel tightness here, you feel pinching here, like in the groin. That means that your femur is shoved forward, and when you actually in the bridge position, all you feel is this, then you're just overusing the hip flexors. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know. Put in the comments, it's like, hey, this part I didn't quite get. Why is that? Long story short, if you only feel hip flexors, or if you only feel quads in bridges, don't do them, okay? There's a point of time. It doesn't mean you ever do them. Just don't do them now, because you will be using your hip flexors. If you feel a tension already here, like it's pulling because your hip flexors are tight, it's just not good. You'll get there, okay? You just have to get there. It doesn't mean no glutes, no bridges forever, okay? So you will go inhale into your back. The starting position, you inhale into your back and sides. Your inhale goes here and it goes down, okay? You start slowly pushing off. I'm pushing off, I'm pushing off, okay? And then this is probably where I stop, because now if I push more, I feel I'm gonna slip like this. I'm gonna slip into that anterior tilt. So this is, I know I have to stop here, and in order not to slip or not to have my pelvis tilt in any way, my abs need to work. The TAs need to work, and those TAs are below the belly button. They kind of here, okay? They need to be rock hard when you do this. So I'm pushing off, I'm feeling my abs already engaging. This is on exhale, okay? Inhale down, exhale up. And then I'm shortening here, but here, like, feel the glutes here. You should feel the glutes here, not just where your sit bones are, okay? And the motion, the range of motion is rather smaller than you think. Okay? This would be my bridge. Inhale, exhale. You can totally do a Kegel here. On the exhale, feel the pelvic floor lifting up if you are not tight. Okay? If you are tight, you really want to focus on the inhalation. You're letting everything go, letting the pelvic floor relax and descend down. Okay? Now, the other thing that I see that people do wrong is, okay, so you start with your reps up, and then you do 10 reps, you lift yourself up, and you find yourself here. Like your butt is now further away from your heels. You were pushing off. You were not using the glutes, you were using the quads. Okay? And then obviously a good test after this is like the next day. Where do you feel it? Where do you feel it when you do the exercise, where you do the bridges or whatever thing you do, any exercise? Where do you feel it when you do it? And the day after, where you sore, that's gonna tell you what muscles you were using. Okay? So does the handout from your PT tell you that? Does it ask you, you should feel it here, you should not feel it there? Okay? And then what I see often is feet. People have feet like this, externally rotated. Okay? So make sure feet are parallel, and make sure as you go up, you don't do this. Okay? You don't open. That's gonna promote this piriformis, external rotation. Okay? It's gonna make you tight. Don't do this. I'm gonna explain how to do it with the band though. Okay? So give me a sec. You should have to feel your abs now. When you don't feel your abs, try squeezing something, okay? So promote adduction in the thighs, okay? Adductors attach to the pelvic floor, and then pelvic floor is part of a deeper core. So that will help you feel the TAs more. Also, it promotes this opening, as I was showing you. Squeezing things promotes this opening here, as opposed to this closed situation. It promotes a healthy space between the sit bones and between the sacrum, so in the pelvis, in the bottom of the pelvis, okay? So try again. Inhale. Exhale, pressing the heel down, feeling my hamstrings a little bit, contracting my glutes, contracting my glutes, contracting my glutes. But now I'm not going with my hips higher. I'm just contracting my glutes. My TAs are working. I'm squeezing into the block. Okay? Can I squeeze a little more? I can squeeze a little more. Do I feel it high up, or do I feel it just at the bottom? I actually feel a lot in the bottom. I should feel a little more high up, but maybe with the next rep. Okay? And so I'm going descend, inhale, descending. I'm gonna relax everything and then go up. Obviously, there's a variation where you can keep the contraction. If you are super 100 confident, you are doing it right. Bridges are not my thing. I would not normally do them. So I'm just gonna relax because I also have a tendency for tight pelvic floor. Okay? So I'm squeezing into the block, and that really helps me feel the TAs here, okay? Play with the width, of course, right? There is no perfect size for or measure, you know. Your hips may be wider than mine, so we will go like this. You say, this is not working for me, well then I'll say, do this, or do this, okay? Just experiment with yourself. Because I'm not talking to you as a person, I haven't seen you. So I'm talking generic, okay? Obviously, when I work with a client, I'll be able to pinpoint exactly, this is your issue here, you're doing this, that, use this cue, do this, take this prop to help you. But right now, I'm just really talking generic, okay? And so use the block if you don't feel the T, as you have to feel your abs working. Otherwise, your pelvis is not stabilized and you'll be using your low back, okay? Every glute exercise is a core exercise. End of story. In squats, deadlifts, what have you, at these fire hydrants, abductions, you need to feel your abs. If you don't, then you'll not be doing it right, okay? So now, using the band, you see that all the time. That has, I don't advise that unless you are super advanced. But how would you do that correctly? So you can use the band. And again, you have to understand the difference between external rotation, which is this, external rotation of the femur, the legs, and abduction, okay? So both glutes do both external rotation and abduction, which is this, abducting as opposed to adducting. However, external rotation does what? There's a high chance that you're gonna overcontract with the piriformis, okay? So when you do the band, to err on the safe side, okay? And you go high up, you want to abduct, like have your feet parallel and press into the band, as opposed, I can do a bridge. I'm gonna lift up and I'm just gonna do this with my piriformis, okay? So it's better to go like this rather than this, totally, all right? So, and it's tiny, like when you do squats and you do this movement, it's easier to abduct rather than externally rotate. Now, when in bridges, your feet are fixated. So how do I abduct? So it's just the intention, okay? Your intention will be, I want to do more abduction rather than external rotation. So I'm going to press into the band. And I really want to make sure that my abs now have to double and triple stabilize the pelvis because of the band. Now this band is says medium or so, 15 pounds, okay? So now my abs need to stabilize for 15 pounds, okay? Let's say this is 5 pounds, then my abs only need to stabilize for 5 pounds. Let's say this is 50 pounds, then my abs need to work so much harder, okay? Now, as you press into the band, you want to do it slowly and continually. If you do this, you run the risk that the short and overactive muscle will be like, boop, I'm here first, because I'm short and I'm overactive. I'm a busybody. I will do it, okay? So especially if you're the person who, with a posterior tilt, you have tight pelvic floor, you ever had piriformis issues, just go slowly press so you can feel for, okay, so which muscles are actually working here? Okay, well, I think it's good. I think it's a glute max. So really make sure you know what you're doing and what muscles you are feeling, okay? So that's about it. I'm just gonna make sure that I covered everything, the correct form. Yeah, use the block. Yeah. Yeah, if your pelvis slips into the anterior tilt like this, it's gonna be easier for the piriformis to kick in. So you really have to make sure that your pelvis is tilted anteriorly. What does it mean if your piriformis kicks in. You can say, well, but I also felt my glute max. Yes, okay, so you did. But basically, you did a workout where 50% was done by muscle that should be off, and 50% was supposed to be done by the glute max that you wanted to work, okay? So basically, you wasted sort of like 50% of the time, okay? Do you see, understand? So I'm throwing here percentages. But that's the reason why people don't see results with exercises in general. I'm like, I'm doing this, you know, I'm doing kickbacks. Okay? But my glutes are not stronger. Yeah, because half of the motion was done by your low back. Okay? So it's all about the perfect form. I don't want you to waste any time. Okay? Do you have time to waste? Like, you can do this in trial and error. Totally. And in 6 months, you'll be like, yeah, but my prolapse is not any better. My leak is not any better. And what gives? Pelvic floor is not helping me. And that is the reason, because you were doing it everything with like 50% correctness or 50% effort. Okay? So that is the reason why maybe you still have your problem. Okay? So now you also want to be thinking about this. Okay, so I have been doing a regimen. I've been seeing a therapist. I've been doing this for so many years and months. Where am I? Am I happy with the progress I'm doing? Or am I not? If you're not entirely happy with where you are at with your pelvic floor dysfunction, leaking, overactive bladder, hypertonic pelvic floor, then you gotta change something, right? Right? So if you tell me then, but I was doing it right, well then maybe you were not. Okay, so you gotta change something. You cannot expect different results with the same strategy. Okay, so, and typically very often I see this, that this is the reason why women don't progress. And when it comes to the discussion, I have a great PT, she gave me a handout. Okay, so I just gave you a lecture that was long, 30 minutes. Okay, you think that handout covered it, the 30 minutes? If you say so. Okay, then I want to say, I see it in my clients. I give them, they see the same video. I cue them in person in video, on Zoom, like how to do this. And when I check them, they still do it incorrectly. Okay, the next day, they like, hey, I'm still feeling it down below. Okay, still feeling it, the piriformis. When I look at them, I just tell them like, don't push off, you know, don't use your quads, do this and that. They still do it incorrectly, even with me on the Zoom. Okay? Does it mean they're not smart people? No. It's a new movement for your body. We're learning all this. It's like, if you were doing bridges a certain way for so many years, it's like learning juggling. You know, your brain will need time to process the movement. And then we have a dysfunction for a reason. Why is your pelvic floor dysfunctional? Because your deep hip rotators are taking over. Okay, so do you think now, after all these years, you had prolapse, or even you had prolapse for several months? I'll tell you, okay, give me bridges, because that's a pelvic floor exercise. It's gonna help you, and you'll be like, okay, I'll do it. Do you think your body will do it? No, you will not feel your abs, your TAs, and you will be overusing the TAs, but you will not be even aware of it. You will not be aware of it. And that is the thing why women don't see results with all these pelvic floor exercises, because we think we do it, but we are not. And only like a really good professional can tell you like, I think I saw your hip flexors kind of flicker here. I think you overused it. Make sure you don't. Okay. So that's the difference between doing pelvic floor therapy with limited results and doing pelvic floor therapy with results. Okay, these little changes. Okay, again, dysfunction is there for a reason. We're dysfunctional because muscles that should be working are not working, and muscles that should not be working, they take over. Okay, and this is totally without our awareness, right? And so when we learn these movements, frequently we're not aware which muscle. We don't have the proprioception. We don't have the training. I mean, most of us don't even know what our pelvic floor is doing. Okay? Or when I started with this, I had no idea. I mean, I was pregnant and I gave birth and I had no idea what the pelvic floor was. So unless you're much smarter and much better prepared for this, then this message is not for you. But that is the reason I'm trying to tell you, the way you do exercise and how you do it, it really matters. Because even though you did it right in the office of the therapist, I guarantee you, you go home and you have different environment, you have different props, you will not be doing it entirely correctly. Now, will you learn it? You will learn it. For sure you will learn it. But someone needs to point it out to you. Otherwise, you'll be just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then you'll be like, I was doing 3 HAP for so and so many years and didn't help me. Well, I guess I know why. I know why, but do you see that? Am I making my point? Let me know if not, because this is, I believe, this is it's very important. If you see this, you're halfway on your healing journey, because there's so many women who don't understand this and they keep repeating doing the same thing. All right. So it's very important that you understand the differences of movement, and so your therapist should be able to explain you all this, why you want to do the bridges, what muscles are working, and like for you, like because you have an anterior tilt, you want to do it this way. Oh, because you have a posterior tilt, you want to do it this way. Because your hip flexors are tight, you have to do it this way. They should give you customized instruction for you. And I'm telling you, the handout that they give out to everyone is not going to contain that if they give it out to everyone. Do I make sense? Okay. So please write replay, #replay or #live when you're watching this. I was not able to see if there are any comments here, maybe just briefly. I'm not sure I'll be able to see this. But write down any questions whatsoever. There's a lot to cover, okay? This is really a lot to cover, and if you don't understand that, that is possibly the reason. Can you show us 5 correct in a row? Okay. You are too far to see the demonstration of the bones. So the bones, I'm gonna post the link under this where I have a video closer of the pelvic situation. Just understand that there's something going on in the pelvis that can explain why the shortened piriformis is so detrimental to a pelvic floor dysfunction. So I'm gonna do 5 in a row. Okay, I'm gonna do 5 with a block because that's the way I want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to inhale into my back and sides. I'm going to lift up. My pelvis is tilting posteriorly. Hard abs, squeezing into the block. Pelvic floor lifts. Squeezing even more. I'm trying to like push up, but I'm not going any higher. It's the contraction of the glutes. And I'm inhaling, going down. Inhale, relax everything. Exhale, going up. Huge inhale into my ribcage. Huge inhale. last one, okay? So you see the range of motion is pretty short. And so for the range of motion that is short, the glutes don't have so much time to contract all the way. So hip thrusts are a much better way to strengthen the glutes. That's another reason I'm not such a fan of bridges. The hip thrusts are much better because they allow you go higher up, okay? But just because I'm not a fan doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing them. As long as you do them right and you feel the benefit, that is important. I don't feel the benefit, but that's just me. You feel the benefit, it's perfectly all right, okay? So let me know if you have any questions whatsoever on this. Let's deep dive on one exercise, okay? Half an hour, more than half an hour, okay? To cover every eventuality, so you understand it. Again, handout will not get you there, but try this, really try it. Let me know, please. I would really appreciate if you tell me like, okay, so I was doing it differently and I felt it here, or I still feel it there, and we can troubleshoot maybe, okay? All right, I love you ladies. Happy Friday. Bye.